So we started a series last week that we called EXO, and it's really studying the book of Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs. And if you've never read the Bible, or if you've never read this book of the Bible even, there are probably verses here that you have heard before or that you know about. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about this book, and we're going to talk about God's standard for relationships. And I'm just going to be honest, I know, I was single for a long, long time. I know, sitting in those chairs like I used to when we'd go through books like this, that I would sit there and think, man, this isn't for me. This is for the married people. This isn't going to work in my life. But I promise you, as Britt and I have been working through what this series looks like, I promise for every single person, from teenager to grandparent, there is something for all of us to see in this. And even today, like the book of Song of Songs is about love and all these different things, but what we're going to talk about mainly isn't relationships, but it's about that word love and what love means to all of us. So if you're married, there's something for you. If you're a single parent, there's something for you. If you're divorced, there's something for you. If you have been married for 50 years, there's something for you. And so I have a couple of my friends, if we can, let me bring the first couple up here real quick. This is Brian and Stephanie Bell. Let's hear it for them. Come on. You come right here in the middle. She has a broken arm, so that's why she's holding it that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to work this out. Now, Brian, how long have you guys been married now?
22.
22 years, all right? So that's awesome. Brian, what's your anniversary?
December 18th.
Wow, okay, I'm really trying to catch him on that, but all right, he got me there. So what we're going to do is, and some of you guys may have seen this on social media this week, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a little game here. What you got to do is take this ball between each other, and without your hands, you've got to get it. You got to turn all the way around, all right? Can't use your hands. Can't do anything a little scandalous. Just do what you got to do, all right, to make that go around. And the winner of this, you will get $1,000 if you can make this happen, all right, in heaven, all right. And so we'll go. So go ahead, just do what you got. The height difference is amazing, and so if we need a stool for Stephanie, you go, girl, you go. Make it no hands, Stephanie. You only have one arm, anyways. Yeah. Wait. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Wait. Oh, no. Off the stage, you lost. That didn't work. Let me have the next couple come up here. Sarah and John Stevenson, come on up here, Sarah and John. Let's hear for Sarah and John. Oh, here we go. Sarah, how long have you guys been married? 10 years. Oh, that sounded like you've been beaten down a lot. All right, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I know. I work for him. I work with him. I work for him. God in heaven, if that's the case, I'm leaving right now. All right. Brent's not here. I don't care. All right, so here's how this is going to work. You saw their style. What you can do is do what they did. All right? You have to do it a different way. Now, I don't even know what they did, but you have to do it a different way. So however they were doing it, you have to make it different. All right? Does that make sense? No hands, but you have to figure out how to turn all the way around without doing what Brian and Stephanie did. So let's start this up. I don't want to watch this. Ready? Go. Oh, did they do it? Oh, I don't know. Is that a thumbs up? Did they do that? Or all right, you guys took it. Good job. Get off the stage, John. Let's get the next couple up here. Oh, here we go. Richard and Audra. Now, let me ask you. Richard, how long have you guys been married?
7 years in April.
7 years. What date in April?
Wait.
The 20th? 420?
17th.
That's when you got married? Oh, 17th. Okay.
Is that right?
What is happening?
Is that right?
I don't know what's happening.
He asked me the other part just now.
No, I did
You
not.
cheated already. Okay. All right. Same thing. Same thing. Can't do what John did. Can't do what Brian and Stephanie did. Can you make this happen?
Oh, yeah.
You got it?
All day.
You don't want him.
I don't want him to? All right. So here's what I want to see happen. In the middle. Okay, we ready? Go. Whoa, no. Wow. I didn't expect that, to be honest. That was, of all the possible conclusions, I didn't see that one going. So that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. All right, Song of Songs, Song of Solomon. I'm going to interchange those a lot. Song of Songs, chapter 1. We talked a lot about 3 different people in this story. So if you have your Bible, Song of Songs, chapter 1, there are 3 characters. Everyone say 3 characters. There are 3 characters in the story, all right? So the first character is the young man, his King Solomon, okay? King Solomon's the first character. Then we have the young woman, Solomon's bride. And then you have the young women. That's really kind of, if we were going to be in this story, it would be all of us. It would be us in the crowd. So there's the young man, the young woman, Solomon, his bride, and then kind of all of us that are watching this story unfold, that are hearing this story unfold. And so as we get into this sermon, I want to get some kind of ground rules put in place. Number 1, it's easy in these kind of sermons to start doing the elbow. You know what I'm talking about? Start hitting the husband, start hitting the wife, start hitting the boyfriend, hitting the girlfriend. It's easy to do that. Let's listen to sermons for ourselves, not for someone else, okay? Let's put it to ourselves and let's think about it that way. Number 2, all of us in this room have scars in our life. All of us have something that has happened to us, maybe relationships, maybe something happened in whatever area of life. We all have some scars in our life. And so it's going to be easy to condemn other people, and it's going to be easy to feel condemnation on yourself. What I want you to hear today, because I love you, but we're going to talk about some hard stuff. And because of this, I don't want you to feel condemnation on your own life. If you know Jesus, the Bible does tell us there is no condemnation for those in Christ. But I also want to not give you an excuse to live out a life of sin either. And so what we're going to talk through today is just some kind of tough stuff. That's not what the culture around us says. But I don't want you in this room to just sit there and feel depressed and beaten down. There is a way out. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just one of the reminders, there is no sin that has more power than the cross. There is no sin that you've ever committed. There's no sin that has more power than the cross. And so I don't want you to isolate yourself here. So if you have your Bibles, Song of Solomon, Song of Songs, chapter 1. This is the young woman speaking. Now, let me tell you. My title here is Associate Pastor. And in this chapter, there's some pretty crazy things to talk about. And I'm going to dive really quickly into being a youth pastor and probably giggle a few times. So I just want you to be ready for what you're about to experience here today. All right, here we go. Song of Songs, a young woman speaking. She says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is better than wine. For my Baptist, your love is better than Coca-Cola." Is that better? I don't want anyone to get mad. "Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore, virgins love you. Draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers." This is really her, the young woman, telling her story of their love. Talking about their story. And so when I sit there and think about Cassie and I, and we've been married for 2 years now, when I sit there and think about our story and how it began and what happened there, if you've heard it before or you know about it, we had a horrific first date, all right? I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not a good dater. It's not been good for me. First off, no one wanted to date me anyways, but when I would get a girlfriend, when I would secure something there, that didn't last very long. And so when I would date somebody, and when I started dating Cassie, I had this thing inside of me where I didn't know how to ask her out, okay? And I didn't really know how to tell her that we were dating. So for about 3 months there, she didn't know that we were dating when I assumed we were dating. So like our timelines of our relationship were a little off, but it is what it is. And so on our first date, when I did kind of ask her out, she didn't believe that I asked her out, but I thought, hey, let's go get some pizza. I thought that's a date, but maybe it's not. I went to Edmond. She lived in Edmond at that time. I drove down to Edmond. And I went and picked her up, we went and ate, and on the way back, I got a flat tire. Now, in that time in my life, this is 8-9 years ago, at that time in my life, I didn't know how to change a flat tire, okay? Now, at this time in my life, like Neil said, I still don't know how to change a flat tire, but I really didn't then, all right? I really had a hard time there. So what ended up happening is I had a flat tire, I had to call her, and I said, hey, can you come pick me up? It was a Saturday night, I had to get back here for church, and so she came and picked me up. And we went back here to town, and she went to her house, I went to my house, and we went to church, and then we were going to go back, get on the turnpike, go back and change the tire. So we got in the car, and we drove back down the turnpike, and it was like right at the beginning of the turnpike, coming from Edmond, okay? It was right at the beginning where I had the flat tire. So we get back to my car, we figure out how to take the wheel off and do all the stuff that you have to do to change a flat tire. And as we finished it, I was like, all right, we're good. I realized I left my keys in Sand Springs, okay? And so, got to turn around, head back to Sand Springs, grab my keys, turn around, come back down the turnpike, get in the car, and the whole time sitting there thinking, yeah, I don't think this is going to really work out. She's definitely bad luck. This isn't on me. That was the thought. But we survived that. We've moved on, and man, over the last 8-9 years, man, it's been incredible. Ups and downs, obviously, but that's been the story of our life. This is what this lady's talking about here in the story of her and Solomon's love. She says this, your name is oil poured out, therefore virgins love you. In that time period, there's a lot of cultural differences from then and now. First off, oil is one of the most precious things in that time. You could own it in that day. If you remember the story of the woman that went to Jesus and poured the perfume and the oil out on his feet, for a lot of people in that time period and in those time periods, that was a big percentage of their wages, maybe even a year of their wages. It was a big deal. And what this lady is saying, what the young woman is saying is your reputation is so good. You live a life of integrity. Everyone knows who you are, and everyone knows that you're really, really good. And then from this part on, the young woman, the young man, Solomon and his bride, they start to flirt. And they start to talk. And their attraction starts building between them. Again, we're going to talk today about really kind of this law of attraction. And I don't want to get caught up on that as much as I want to get caught up on this word, love. Because that's really the crux of all of this, the word love. We live in this culture that's really, really postmodern. A lot of people would call it postmodern. And so in this world, what we have now is this version that I've heard the phrase, we're post-truth as well. That all of us in this place, we have a version of truth that we hold on to. Hopefully not in the Christian world, but we all have a truth that we hold on to. So I've heard the phrase over and over that, well, that's my truth, that's your truth, all that kind of stuff. Well, if everyone has a truth, obviously, then that means that there could be no truth, right? Because your truth contradicts my truth. It's a whole thing. But if we live in this world of post-truth, we also get into this world where we start to devalue love and the concept of love. We live in a culture that is a hookup culture, that whatever feels good to me, whatever I can get from you, I need that. It turns into transactional type things. We break away from the parameters in which God's built for us to find our marriages, to find love, to find relationships. And so the word love has lost all meaning. I make jokes about this all the time, but I love Cassie, but I also in the same breath can say I love tacos as well, right? How do those work out together? It's because we've devalued that word love. And by the way, love is not defined by your standard or my standard. Love has to be, if it's right, defined by who God is, right? It has to be defined by what the Bible tells us. And so your version, your Grey's Anatomy version of what you believe love is can't be what it is. It's skewed if it's not by God's concepts. It's not by what he says. And so when you can't define a word, you know what we start to do? We start to make slogans and taglines for words. And so we say this phrase, love is love, right? No, what does that mean? Okay, or we say, well, God hates the sin, but he loves the sinner. Okay, that's great to put on a bumper sticker, but what does that mean? Because then if you read the Bible, you hear this version of God who is a God of wrath. We don't like that version of God, right? We read the New Testament. We want to read the Old Testament. So if God's wrath, but he's love, how do those coincide together? I just want you to know that love is found at the cross of Jesus Christ. Love is defined by a God who is equally wrath, equally love, but will cross barriers to know you. Right? I mean, that's what love is. Love is not my version. It has to be God's version. I love you. Everyone say, I love you, Matt. Love is not the guy that you're sleeping with that won't commit to you. Love is not the girl that's flirting with you, even though she knows you're married. It's not love. It's skewed. It's different. It's broken. Love is not a teenage boy asking you to send him pictures of things he shouldn't be asking you to send pictures of. That's not love. That's not respect. That's not love. And so we can't live in that world. Love is not a two-dimensional figure that you look at on this phone or on your laptop. That's not love. That's a perversion of what God has. And so what we fall into is we fall into a broken version of love that's more about me than it is about you. That I can get what I need from you and get what you need from me. It's more like we're going to Quick Trip and just transaction. That's all it is. And so as we get into this story, again, I want to touch on the word love, what love really means. So in chapter 1, verse 5, we're going to go a little bit farther. Again, there's a lot of cultural differences here. She says, I am very dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. There's a big cultural difference right here. In those times, to be dark-skinned meant that you were poor. Now, let me just tell you right now, I'm dark-skinned and I'm poor, so I fit this version of the story. But in that time period, to be dark-skinned meant that you were poor. That meant that you would go out and you had to work in the sun all day, that you didn't have any servants, you didn't have any slaves that would work for you. And so if you're a woman, it was even more a sign of kind of just that you weren't a rich person, a sign of just you were a lower class type of person. But she says there, she says, I'm dark but lovely. Really what she's trying to say here is, I know I'm not physically perfect, but my body isn't the only thing about me. She's setting a standard, right? Verse 7, tell me, you whom my soul loves, where you pasture your flock, where you make it lie down at noon. For why should I be like one who veils herself? By the way, one who veils herself, that's a word that's her kind of making an allusion to prostitution. In those days, a prostitute would wear a veil across her face. Why should I be like one who veils herself besides the flocks of your companions? She's saying, where are you leading your flock? In case I just want to come and talk to you, in case I want to come and flirt with you. She says, why should I be like one who veils herself? Here's what she's saying. Don't think that because I am who I am, that you can touch me or have anything you want. This is what she's telling her. She's drawing a line and saying, I know why he chose me. I'm attractive, but it's not because of my physical body. It's because I know who I am and I have standards. She's saying, I've allowed God to define who I am, and so these are my standards. This is who I am, and I wish that our teenagers, I wish that our adults would grab this version of what a standard is for who they are. Because that really is going to go forward with who we want to be. So there's 3 levels of attraction in this story. So if you're single, there's something I want you to find here. If you're divorced, there's something I want you to find here. If you're looking at this story, maybe you've been married, you've hit a rut, there's something that we can all find here. But we're going to talk about the levels of attraction and that word love. By the way, who feels awkward like right now? Yeah, you do, I get it. We've been at a 1, I'm about to go to a 10, so I hope you're ready. Number 1, the first thing that we're going to talk through is spiritual attraction. Spiritual attraction. You want to be attractive to somebody? You want to be attractive to your husband, your wife? You want to be attractive to a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Here's what you should be looking for. Spiritual attraction. You should find somebody who loves God more than you love God, and you should do everything you can to love God with everything inside of you. Hill Spring Church, can we just talk? Can we just be real here at church today? It's time for us to love and honor God with our lives, okay? Not here on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock and at 11 o'clock and maybe on a first Wednesday if we make it, and maybe once in a while when we go to a small group. Every day of our life. Hill Spring, let's quit living halfway. Quit letting our boyfriends or our girlfriends pull us down, or that person who won't commit to you, pull you down, pull you out of your relationship with God. Here's the truth. Sin and God, they're not going to coexist. You're just going to hit a wall. If you want the best for God in your life, you want God's best for your life, you've got to work those things out. You can't have 2 masters. Never works. Do this for your kids. I'm not a parent. I'm a youth pastor. But do this for your kids because as much as if you're not modeling a biblical standard, your kids are seeing it. And they're seeing it more than you think they're seeing it. And let's keep going. Let's go to the next. Find your calling in life. Here's the next part. Find your calling in life. So here's the deal. Your calling in life, that's a very big, abstract word, but here's what I'm asking you to do. What does God put in your heart to do? What's he wanting you to do in your life? promise you it's not just sitting in those chairs. I promise you it's not just every now and then watching on YouTube. I promise you there's a calling for your life. There's an impact that you can make and a difference you can make somewhere around you. I promise you have that inside of you. It's insane to me that the book of Acts, that a small group of people changed the entire world because they understood that their purpose was something different than sitting in a chair. I'm not condemning you. I don't want you to feel guilty. I'm just trying to encourage you to get to this level of life because there's something inside of you that this world needs. So let's keep moving. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing, like today, right after this service, we're going to have you're going to have a time to go shop for a small group around you. Get into a small group that's going to encourage you. Get into a small group that's going to say, hey, I believe in you. Get into a small group that's going to say, hey, whatever you want to do, we're going to support you. We're going to move forward with you. I love our KOZ small group. It was an idea that Clint Holt had. He said, hey, I want to work with young men who maybe don't have a father in their life, and I want to show them basic life skills. By the way, I've been trying to go to that group because I need to learn those too. He says, I want to help them to learn who God's made them to be. And man, on a Saturday when I show up and there's a ton of kids out there and he's showing them how to change oil on a car, that's incredible. And it's a thing that he wanted to do because there's a dream and a vision inside of him that was pushed forward by a small group around him. Find your calling in life. You're not too broken. Find your calling in life. Here's the next one. Set your godly standard. If you're dating someone, have the conversation. Hey, if we're going forward, we're not going to do these things. Set your standard. Set your parameters. Maybe you're in a relationship right now. I love you. I love you. I love you. Maybe you're in a relationship right now. You're sleeping together. You're doing things you know you shouldn't be doing. It's time. Have the conversation. Hey, we're stopping, or you got to go. It's not God's best for you. Not judging you, not guilting you. It's not God's best for you. If you're married, husbands, time to get some accountability. Time to walk away from these things. And I know this is awkward to talk about, but it's time to walk away from these things that are holding us hostage. It's time to walk away from these things that are keeping us down. It's time to walk away from the images on our phone, the videos that we watch that we shouldn't be watching, that are helping us to devalue the people around us, especially our wives. Walk away. Walk away from it. Who feels awkward right now? I don't care. All right, verse 9, here we go. I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. So when we talk about love, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through a couple of Hebrew words. The Hebrews had 3 different words. They had more than that, but 3 special words for the word love. We have one. That's why I can say I love Cassie, but I love tacos, right? We use one word, but they had 3 different versions of words for the word love. Here's the first one. And by the way, I read this book called The Mingling of Souls on my honeymoon. If you get a chance to go buy that book, I'll buy it for you. Go read that book. It's an incredible book about marriage and relationships. Hebrews have 3 different words for love. In this context, the word here is raya. Everyone say raya. You learned Hebrew today. This word means friendship. It means companionship. It's your soulmate. It's the one who understands you, who gets you. The love right here, raya, is that I understand you. I love you. We're friends. Cassie and I, we were friends years before we got married. We were friends years before we started dating. We were friends. It's that raya love, that I love you as a friend. I love you, the soulmate. We're connected. We get the same thing. We know each other. The most important part of any relationship is, can you really trust them? Can you be friends with them? Are you linked, not just physically, but spiritually? Number 2, let's keep going. There's an emotional attraction. Too often, people get caught running for the physical before they understand the emotional. Verse 12, while the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. My beloved to me is a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-Gedi. What this picture is a picture of 2 lovers thinking about each other, longing for each other. I think the day that I found out that I really was in love with Cassie was when I was working at another place. We went to London. And we were in London, and Cassie was here. And I was sitting in a hotel room, sitting there thinking, man, I miss Cassie. And I just sat there thought, what is this emotion? What is this feeling that I have right here? And it started to clarify, no, it's I love her. This is what this is. This is where I found out that I really was in love with her. This is what this picture is. They're saying, hey, I miss you. They're sitting in they're 2 different places, but they're thinking about each other. You're never going to develop the emotional if you're focused on the temporal, if you're focused on only the physical. I want to talk to my married people. And so many of you guys have been married so much longer than me. How can I give you any advice? I can't, but I can tell you what the Bible talks about. Invest in each other. Invest in time together. This is something Brent's told me over and over and over. Invest in time together. If all you're doing is co-parenting, what happens when your kids grow up? If all you're doing is driving each other to soccer practice and trying to get your kids to the youth group and trying to get them where they need to go, what happens when they're 18 and they've gone to college? What do you do there? Legitimately, like, what happens? And so what ends up happening is that Pastor Brent brings you into his office and you guys figure out that you don't even know who each other are anymore. That there was a year, 10 years ago, where you were so much in love, but now your schedules and everything else broke you apart. Invest in each other. Find a way to work that out. How do you speak to each other? Are you constantly negative and critical? Who wants to come home to that? Who wants to live with that? Who wants to be in a part of that? Most inappropriate relationships that we have seen, and I've been doing this for about 10 years now, most inappropriate relationships that we've seen and we've been around really come from this part right here. That a husband or a wife, they don't get told the affirmation things. They don't get told that they're beautiful or anything like that. And so they try to find it somewhere else. And that's where 99.9% of half of these inappropriate relationships we see, that's where that happens. Encourage your wife. Remind her how beautiful she is. Remind your husband why you love him, why he's the only one that matters. And let's go to number 3. And we're going to talk about physical attraction. Verse 15. Behold, you're beautiful, my love. Behold, you're beautiful. Your eyes are doves. Behold, you're beautiful, my beloved. Truly delightful. Our couch is green. The beams of our house are cedar. Our rafters are pine. He's telling her how beautiful she is. Cedars and beams are a sign of strength and foundation. Second Hebrew word right here that I want to talk about is this word, ahava. It's another word for love. It's a love for the will. It's a love of the will. It's a love saying, hey, no matter what happens between us, no matter how old we grow up together, no matter what happens in our life, no matter how many fights we get into, no matter how many times that you walk away, I still love you. No matter what you go through in your life, I still love you. No matter what you walk through, no matter how much pain you go through, no matter how much pain you cause me, I still love you. I'm going to love you no matter what happens. It's not emotional. It's by my choice. This is the ahavala. By the way, God doesn't love you because he has to. He loves you because he wants to. He loves you because he loves you. This is this kind of love. I'm committed no matter what happens. Our foundation is solid. Chapter 2, verse 3 through 6, it kind of talks about the man takes her on a date. And then they go back to her place. And this is where it's going to start getting weird. She paints a picture of them kind of laying down together. And they're holding each other. And I don't know how to say it, but like something's about to go down. This is how I probably could say it right now. Before that happens, she stops. Chapter 2, verse 7 says it like this: I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. This translation is not the best version of this. What it says, until the time is right, is the better way to say it. Don't awaken love. Don't do things that you shouldn't be doing until the time is right. And God sets a standard for when the time is right. The young ladies in the room, don't let a boy awaken love before he's supposed to. He can't commit to you. He can't put a ring on your finger. Don't give anything away. I love you. I know there's a lot of women that say the exact reverse thing to men, same way. If a woman won't commit to you, don't give something away you shouldn't give away. I love this. She asks her friends for accountability. She says, oh, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem. She's saying, hey, help me with this. My friends, hey, help me. Hold me together. Keep me accountable to this. Because if it's me on my own, I'm going to slip and fall. But I need someone else around me to help me. Again, why we do small groups, why you're going to have a chance to go shop for a small group in a second. It's because you can find accountability. Men in this room, you need to find a group of people that can hold you accountable to what happens on your phone. I have to have people that hold me accountable for what happens in my life. Men that can hold you accountable for how you treat your wife. For my single people here, you need people to hold you accountable for what you do in your dating relationships. This is why small groups are so important to our youth ministry. is because we want them to understand that they're not isolated. They're not dealing with the same thing, or they're not isolated in their own pain. They're not isolated in their own sin. People around them are dealing with the same thing. And if we can lock arms together, we can work and go forward together. That's what this is about. The Hebrew word here for love is this word dode. Super romantic word. But it means the physical, the tangible, it means the sexual type of love. So this is the attraction, spiritual, emotional, physical. They're about to do something they shouldn't do, and she stops it. Let's not do this. Hey, Easton, give me a hand real quick, buddy. Can you pull this over here? Oh, so I want to illustrate something, and then we're going to be done here. By the way, this is my buddy Easton. Last night, he was right up on the stage in Mike's spot, ripping that guitar in worship, playing it like nobody's business, leading us. Smile at him, Easton. Thanks, bud. So I think when we talk about these kind of things, and I know you guys are hungry and you're ready to go to Mozzio's. I think when we talk about these things, we talk about the passions in our life. We can really look at our life and start feeling guilty about everything. How many of you guys love campfires, by the way? Anyone a campfire person? Yeah. Ready for the fall time, ready for all that kind of stuff, the s'mores, and inevitably, a teenager trying to jump over a fire and then have to call the hospital, and it's great. Should have known last year, 2020, we had an event we called No Sleep Till 2020. It was an all-night lock-in, and at midnight, we took the kids out front. We shot off fireworks in the field. It was awesome. Then we came in here and we had worship, and I just happened to walk out into the lobby and noticed that the field was on fire. And thought, this isn't probably good. And we went and stomped it out, and that was great. But it was kind of a moment of what 2020 was going to be. So, if I lit this fire here right now, you guys would be like, where's the nearest exit? Okay, like, what are we doing here? How do I get out of here? The issue isn't the fire, right? Like, we love campfires. If I took this and I took it outside, yeah, we're all about that. Let's have fun. Let's eat s'mores. Let's have a good time. The issue is the placement of it. It doesn't make sense to do it here. It makes sense to do it out there. Here's where I think the church has failed, and where I think we've let society creep in too much, is our passions, our feelings, those things inside of us, those things that we want, those physical needs, that dode type of love. It's not a bad thing. God's not judging you because of your feelings. God gave you those feelings. It's just the placement of them, right? It's just where you put them in your life. See, the passion, the fire's not the wrong thing at all. The fire's good. Like, we're down for fire. We like fire. But it's just because of the placement that we have it in. If it was out there, we're good. If it's here, it doesn't make sense because it's not supposed to be here. It's the placement. Same thing with the passion in your life. Same thing with the fire in your life. Sex isn't the issue. It's the placement of it. Single person. Divorced person, married person. God put parameters around our life, not to beat you down, but to give you joy. The God who said, I come to bring you life and life to the fullness. Could it be that the fullness of life isn't us trying to find someone that we're sexually compatible with? Isn't just watching two-dimensional images on our phone and treating our spouse like a piece of meat? Isn't it more than those things? What if it's this beautiful moment of raya, of ahava, of dode, of all of these versions coming together in true godly love? And the fire's not the issue. Placement. C.S. Lewis tells this story, and he says, we're like people who God says, come out into the ocean with me, come hang out in the ocean with me, and we're more content to sit in our own filth and our own mud. is God saying, hey, there's the ocean out here. It's fun, it's awesome, it's great. Come out here and swim. And we're like, no, I'm good here. I like the mud. I took my mom to Galveston last year to take her to the ocean. And some of you guys are like, that's not the ocean. I promise you, be in the car with my mom for 8 hours and you're good, okay, if you get there, all right? That's what you need. And so we went to Galveston and she saw it, and my mom just kind of was overcome with emotion because she'd never seen a body of water like that, the roaring power of that. She never saw that, and it made her cry. It was this kind of cool moment. This is what God's saying, hey, come out into the ocean, to this big, massive, powerful place. Come out here and experience these things. And we're saying, no, I'll sit here in the mud. This is good. And I know that sounds cute and whatever, but I'm telling you, that's our life. We're sitting there saying, hey, I know that God put a parameter around me, but I'm going to do what I need to do because I need to fulfill my needs. That is the mud. God said, hey, marriage between a man and a woman, and we're going to do outside of those things, we're going to do whatever we need to do. That is the mud. The context of love is what God defines. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not self-serving. That is what we want to be. That's the ocean, but we'll live in the mud. I love you. But let's stand up and get out of that. Let's go into the ocean. Let's go into God's fullness and into God's joy and into what God's called us to do in our own life. Let's find true holiness and true fullness in who God is and His standard of love. Let's get out of the mud. Teenagers, I love you. Get out of the mud. Let's do what God's called us to do. Let's live a standard of life that's better.
Hey, thanks for watching this sermon on our Hillspring YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it, take just a moment, hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss a single thing. Secondly, if this message has impacted you and you want to help reach others, visit our website at hillspring.tv. Hit that Give Now button to help us carry the hope of Christ around the world. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.